So quick introduction, Zachary Nelson is the CEO of MotoCrane, not a partner at Bolt. But maybe someday we'll be a partner at Bolt. Without further ado, I'm going to give the floor up to Zachary. Thank you very much.
And Danny, is my screen working right now? Can you see the presentation?
I can see you, not the presentation. So I think you'd have to maximize or screen share.
Okay, is that working?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. Like Danny said, my name's Zach Nelson. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at MotoCrane. We're based in Minneapolis, and we're a manufacturer of robotic camera systems for the film and television industry. And we're just going to go through kind of the founding story of the company as it relates to our early stages of product development, where we were working out of my parents' garage, as all great startups do. And then touch a little bit later on once we were post-revenue and built a team and started to establish some much more finessed processes around continued engineering and innovation on our product line. So the image that you see here are examples of two of our products. On the left is MotoCrane Radical, and on the right is MotoCrane Hyper. These are robotic cranes that get mounted to the roofs of vehicles in various ways and are built for different sizes and weights of payloads and camera packages, and are used for filming car commercials and chase scenes and films and anything that would require a vehicle to make a camera go fast. So like I said, MotoCrane is a manufacturer of robotic camera support equipment for the film and TV industry, founded in 2013. Our products are used all over the world to film movies, car commercials, advertisements, TV shows. Think whenever you see a car commercial and there's what's called running footage of that product that's being sold in action. So this could be like an off-road vehicle, a car, even like shoes for Nike. If you need to track a runner, say, in action, our systems allow cars to basically be outfitted and built up as camera or as tracking vehicles. So we launched our first product in 2017 and have launched 3 new products since, and those products would be individual, what we call remote arm systems. We're a small team. It's 8 of us here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we design, build, and then ship all of our products here at our facility in Minneapolis. A little bit on kind of the why behind MotoCrane. So before our company existed, basically film production teams really had 2 options for how they were going to use, again, like what's called a tracking vehicle, which is some kind of vehicle that's been outfitted or transformed in either a temporary or a permanent way to be used for film production. And there was basically hanging out the back of a pickup truck or a van or a car with some kind of handheld stabilization system or lack thereof, which is kind of unsafe and uninspiring, and the footage sucks. And then the only other option besides that was renting what's called a Russian arm, which is a rare and expensive vehicle that's been permanently modified to support one of these massive cranes on top of it. And so there was really no middle ground that allowed productions to, that even had reasonable budgets to, have something that, was still a capable system, but, didn't cost, $20,000 per day to rent. So we wanted to solve that problem for film and video production teams. Like I said, so with no happy medium, filmmakers were left feeling frustrated because they couldn't really realize their full potential or their creative vision when they were shooting their commercials. This is also, as we all know, the era of content creation has really exploded in the last decade, just due to the availability, the distribution, YouTube, Instagram, where companies were maybe producing, maybe 10 handfuls of big, pieces of content every year. That happens weekly or even daily now for large brands that need to constantly be producing new content around their products and services. And because we're such a content hungry culture and species, that's just going to continue to increase. So there needed to be a more sustainable model, more sustainable piece of equipment that allowed film production teams to work that way. So so the mission really of our company is to democratize technology that empowers artistry. That's our mission statement, and the specific niche that we operate within is this camera car or tracking vehicle niche. But again, the spirit of what we do is taking technology that was once out of reach and making it accessible for film production teams that previously couldn't use the kind of tech that they wanted to. This is a quick timeline of our company from, again, the initial founding in 2013 to where we are right now. In 2013, my co-founder and I, Scott Tuvson, founded the company. This was really just kind of an idea at that point. We spent about 18 months just concepting, the napkin sketching, the 3D modeling, bouncing around from various home offices and garages eventually to basically the physical prototyping stage, and did that for another 18 months before we actually launched the company in 2017 with our first MVP prototype. And then we secured pre-orders, and using those pre-orders, we're able to get some funding for production, hire people that could build the product to the level that it needed to be in order to be a sustainable, commercial, reliable product that was manufacturable and still profitable, and then ship those. And then about a year later, we introduced the successor to that original product with a lot of changes that we wanted to make and learnings that we had during the process of building our first product, and that's called Ultra, or MotoCrane Ultra. And then 6 to 9 months later, after that, we announced that we started shipping those, and then since then have been just in a cycle of continued innovation, building accessories for MotoCrane Ultra, which to date is the world's most popular, what we call remote arm system. We have more MotoCrane Ultras in the world working than any other remote arm, I should say all other remote arm manufacturers combined. And again, since then, we've been developing other entry-level and flagship products, MotoCrane Radical and Hyper, which you saw at the beginning of the presentation there. And actually, funny enough, and kind of it's a special day for us because Radical and Hyper actually both just started shipping literally today. The pallets are actually going out from our warehouse in Minneapolis right now. So the idea, again, as I touched on a little bit for MotoCrane, which is this democratizing company and family of products, really came from my time in film school at Minneapolis College of Art and Design here at MCAD. And during a lot of my school assignments where I was regularly using cars, I'm a big car guy myself. And so a lot of the work that I was doing, I was interested in, learning how to shoot car commercials and getting into the commercial filmmaking, side of the business, and was regularly confronted with this issue of not having this sustainable tool that would allow me to, get cool shots that, was within my student filmmaking budget. MotoCrane co-founder Scott Tuvson and my longtime best friend had just completed his mechanical engineering degree at Madison. And after we both graduated from college, we just started talking about ideas that we could work on together. And I had told him about this issue. And, several nights of drinking and napkin sketching later, we founded the company. And again, just a very rough idea at this point with, no real monetization strategy but we're like, all right, we just want to make this product. So, a little bit of just a quick touch on how we had decided to do funding and how we'd get capital at that time. Scott and I would just contribute our own funds. And then, as our R&D needed it, we would kind of keep it to friends and family. We were very adamant about retaining control, knowing that the idea could go somewhere as big as it is today. And again, by being adamant about that, we have retained all of the control of the company essentially. And we were able to do it very, very lean, getting to market very, very lean. And Scott and I would really work in that left-right brain capacity that the previous speaker actually spoke about. That's really, really valuable in a founding partnership where you have this really healthy tension between co-founders that can, really cause great conversation and great dialogue to help steer the company in the right direction early on. So as we started, we want to identify kind of just the concept and design for what MotoCrane would be. I was really going to be serving as sort of the subject matter expert, just given my background in filmmaking. And of course, we'd continue to research. But at this stage, we really knew that this was like a blue ocean venture. There wasn't a bunch of products that we could look at and model. There wasn't a strong or a large base of competition that we could look at and say, okay, we're going to outperform them in these specific ways. So we just were really iterating, like, what would a product like this even be? How would you ever make something that's going to be affordable enough, that's going to be portable, universal to any vehicle, so you can fly into a destination or a location city on a commercial passenger aircraft with it as checked luggage, and put it on a rental car, shoot your car commercial, and then fly home. So we had just very, very basic design criteria, and just started to put together, again, just like the rough shapes and modules of what this could possibly be. Early on, we tried to develop good culture, given that it was just Scott and I, and we were working on it, as much as we could, kind of nights and weekends. I was still working as a cinematographer and director of photography for myself, just to, again, be establishing capital. And then Scott had a day job as a mechanical engineer for an energy company. And one of the things that we tried to do is understand ourselves as stewards of this idea, not that it really was our idea. So it helped us iterate concepts really quickly to just kind of detach them from ourselves, which I've found during product development, where you have lots of ideas, and especially if you have a large team, it's really helpful to detach personality and ownership from idea. So that's just a lesson that we learned early on. And our concepts eventually went from this very, very ugly looking SolidWorks model to something a little less ugly. And then, as we were making broad strokes, getting finer, the concept started to get a little bit better looking, started looking more like a product, something that you would actually spend, tens of thousands of dollars on. So, in 2015, we felt like we had a pretty good idea. So, almost 2 years later, felt like I had a good idea for a concept that we could start doing physical prototyping on. This is where we also started to need money a little bit more. So we did kind of a small round of friends and family, and brought a couple of key people in as investors just to help cover costs of parts that we were going to have made, and start testing our kind of supply chain, at least for prototyping. So again, this is the garage startup life. We did a lot of, again, late nights and weekends just in our parents' garage, my parents' garage, putting all of this stuff together, basically just learning how bad we were at making products at this point in time. At this stage, usually for founders of a company, cash is a very limited resource. And so you want to be obviously spending money where it's important, because at some point, you have to physically make something. But obviously you're balancing that against not being wasteful with that precious resource. So our strategy was, obviously iterate the concept as much as we could in CAD. But at some point, you have to just make the damn thing and figure out, I should say, get into the next stage of learning, which is really how good of a job did you do at creating this concept. which is going to be totally a measure of your experience in manufacturing, of course, based on the product that you're building, whether you're building, flex circuits, or if it's motor control, or if it's low power. MotoCrane is not necessarily an IoT product. It's not something that's meant to be kind of a home consumer good. We definitely have lots of circuitry. There's lots of control electronics. And so there's lots of sensitive learning there with, how you build a very big, powerful machine that is, controlled by, small microcontrollers. So we spread our parts over 10 to 15 vendors, trying to kind of benchmark and test vendor quality, timeliness, and after sales support. I think this is a video here. Oops, pardon me. And eventually we had a prototype that functioned, and of course, lots of 3D printed parts in there. Definitely not something that'd be sustainable for a final product, but it at least served as a platform for us to start doing learning on.
Ja tu mam kubek. Może weź ten kubek.
So at this stage, there's lots of excitement, of course, around having your first functioning prototype, but it's also, it usually should be gut-wrenching how much you're learning about what you don't actually know about the product, especially for us in this stage of really going into this blue ocean market of having no idea, what a product like this really needs to do, for us kind of inventing the rules of, of what a camera support system is gonna need to be. We really, with this prototype, learned how much we don't know about this market, because it gave us a tool to start establishing conversation with potential customers, with potential people in the industry. And as soon as you start getting third-party feedback, it just completely changes the game for what you define as a successful prototype. So at this point, we knew that this was far from being what a final product needed to be, and we had a lot of work left to do. So one of the biggest takeaways from this stage is just underestimating mechanical and electrical robustness required by this product. Given the mechanical forces of it being attached to a car, just the design environment was something that, when you spend all day in CAD, you don't think about just the amount of wind resistance, the aerodynamics at play, the kind of mechanical loads that are going to be subjected to your structure, how that affects fasteners and the size of fasteners that you're using. We were focused on really building a cool product, that had a bunch of cool features, and that was a big distraction from first establishing basic functionality. And I think that that's something that a lot of product developers do, and it's a natural part of being a visionary, is you can see all those cool things in action in your dreams and in your head, and they have high levels of allure, and I think that they cause product developers to sometimes focus on these sort of peripheral functionalities versus establishing, especially in the early stages, core functionality. So we had to do a lot of stepping backwards at this stage of identifying how this product just failed miserably to even do the basic things that we wanted it to do, like spin around and go up and down and stabilize a camera system. And our first test, we basically went on the road and we said, this is complete rubbish. Like we completely neglected to understand how camera stabilization was integral to producing a smooth shot. So basically that the previous slide where you saw that kind of square camera head moving around had no kind of stabilization system in it at all. And so the footage was just absolute junk. And so it was, again, there was excitement, but there's also heartbreak, realizing that you're so far away from where you wanted to be in the first place, especially after spending 2 years thinking every single day about how the product was going to function. It definitely puts you in your place. And again, we had a ton of issues. We were using I2C for interboard serial communications, which is just an absolute no-no, especially with high current motor control. Pretty much every single manufacturing tolerance that that we had specified was wrong. So our vendors, I should say many of our vendors, were total shit. We were also shit at setting them up to do their best work. So we were still learning, how to build drawings that, adequately or successfully specified the tolerances that we knew needed to be there. Again, mechanisms were too weak. It didn't adequately support the kinds of loads that we wanted the system to be subject to. We tried to 3D print too many things, and it just resulted in just poor functionality. We originally wanted to have Bluetooth be the method for control, which is just not acceptable for a product of this caliber from the perspective of just safety and latency as well. Camera stabilization was a massive challenge, and you have entire companies with large research and development teams that are solely focused on camera stabilization. We were also again focused on like cool electromechanical junctions that were just like way too fancy, and the remote contractors were just inefficient, and it was really frustrating when developing hardware. So we failed a bunch, and that's normal, and we learned, and we eventually started getting a prototype that was functioning how it should. And we're mainly focused on MVP at this point of the product development story. How could we just get a product that was ready for us to just create some advertising, create some content around, and just get ourselves out of the market so that we could actually understand if it was a commercially viable venture. So we finally got our prototype to a spot where we were proud of it, and it was again kind of show ready, and we launched in 2017. So we launched and on January 5th, 2017, and
Hey everyone, I hope you're all back from lunch and ready for a couple more great talks. We've got Caitlin Swanson from Dwello coming up at the summit stage, the ups and downs of scaling customer success. And then at the workshop stage, the plateau stage, we've got David Tischler from Molina talking about crossing the chasm with IoT projects. So thanks guys, and talk to you soon. Bye.
I just realized my time's almost done, so I'm going to get through this last section pretty quickly here. So anyway, we launched, we broke the internet. People were super, super stoked about the product. We didn't have pricing information released at this stage because we wanted to have conversation with customers. So we basically secured pre-orders with customers, and then we used those pre-orders to basically go get an SBA loan for what we needed to finance our first production run and hire a team. And we hired some dynamite engineers who completely have supported the company and the product since then, and we would be just totally dead without them. And we got a little office space, and basically throughout all of 2017, we continued that kind of garage startup mentality and worked through all the woes of the prototype and got those solved, and very unsustainably delivered 24 units of what we now call MotoCrane Classic in late 2017 with the help of an amazing team here. And throughout that journey, we learned a ton of stuff, and one was that our space was way too small. So while we were delivering these units, we started looking for a bigger space. So we moved to a bigger office space and started development on our next product. Again, kind of implementing all those learnings that we had in the first development stages of MotoCrane Classic. Had some key pieces of feedback from the market that we knew we wanted to implement. Basically, longer arm, more payload, faster, better performance off-road, better portability. And we knew that we could do it. And we basically just jumped in headfirst in 2018. And we knew that there were modules specifically that needed to be developed. So there was a lot of research that happened, a lot of investment into our own team to just make sure that everyone was bringing new ideas, valuable ideas, to make sure that our products were, using the latest and greatest in technology that we weren't necessarily aware of. And started doing, again, this physical prototyping kind of in a condensed, expedited timeline. And then in 2018, we launched MotoCrane Ultra on June 1st. And the sort of prototype to shipping process was a lot smoother. Again, we had a massive impact in the market when we launched. People were super, super stoked about it. It was much more successful than our first launch just because of the concerns that we had addressed in this next iteration or the successor to the original product. We gave early adopters a huge loyalty incentive to upgrade to this. It was like a 50% discount, or we would buy back their unit. So as long as they purchased one of these. So we kind of like made it a wash with our existing customers as kind of a big thank you, and wanted them to upgrade to this newest product. And then we just basically spent the next couple of years developing peripherals and accessories in a much, much neater, kind of more structured format. Although it's still messy and still stays messy until it's finally all said and done. Just some examples of the hardware and control accessories that we've developed over the years. And then finally, we've introduced 2 new remote arms this year, an entry-level and a flagship remote arm called Radical and Hyper. And like I said earlier in my talk, it's actually an exciting day because both of those units just started shipping today. And that's it. So thanks for the time. I appreciate it. I don't know if Danny is going to pop in here and talk me off, but appreciate it.
Hey, Zach, thank you so much. Really appreciate. Hey, Zach, thank you so much. Really appreciate it as well. And everyone, you can find Zach's booth. It's got the big car and crane in it in the lower bottom left of the screen, or in the exhibition hall. So thank you so much, Zach. We'll be starting up with Caitlin Swanson from Duello in T-3 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
Check it out.